It's fine.
Oh, I need to hide.
Okay, we've got 31 participants on and it's 12:02, so I'm going to get started. We were having a little bit of technical difficulty, but welcome everyone. I'm Catherine Staley. I'm a Families Together board member, and as many of you know, Families Together has been around for a long time. This is our 40th year. In that time, we have stayed focused on what's important. Our mission of moving families in Wake and surrounding counties from homelessness into stable homes, and our belief that every family deserves a home and children should never have to wonder where they're going to sleep at night. So we're here today to talk to you about tactics of like how is Families Together adjusting to a time, this crazy time of COVID. Many of you have asked about COVID. Many of you have also asked about how we're handling the shrinking availability of affordable housing. So we hope we're going to give you some insights into some of those questions today. Couple of notes before we get going is that we're planning for about 45 minutes. We have several speakers who you see here on the screen. We cannot see or hear you. So don't worry if you're eating your peanut butter sandwich there. And please, we do want your questions though. So at the bottom of your screen, you should see, especially if you hover over it, a little Q&A button come up. So please use the Q&A button and ask us questions. We've allotted 15 minutes at the end to talk about those. So before we get going too much farther, let me introduce first Tim Hiteshew. Wave, Tim. Tim Hiteshew is the president of our board, and he's been the president for 3 years and been on the board for about 6 years. Of course, Lisa Rowe needs no introduction. She's our executive director and has been for the last 5.5 years. Next, Jasmine Dulin. Hey, Jasmine. Jasmine's part of the backbone of the Families Together staff. She's a mentor advocate who works with our families. Tim and Lisa are going to give us just sort of a state of the state on homelessness in our area. Jasmine's going to tell us a bit about the COVID hotel program. And then we've also got Gwen, who I'm very happy and I have the honor of serving on the board with. Gwen is a board member as well as a program graduate. She's going to tell you her family story. And then last but not least is Rebecca, another of my board peers who, Rebecca Necessary, has been sharing her professional gift of architecture with Families Together. And she's going to be talking to us about affordable housing initiatives. So with that, let me turn it over to Tim.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. And thank you to everyone. I'm getting a little feedback here. Sorry, thanks for everyone that's joining the conversation today. I'm Tim Hiteshew, and I've served on the board for 6 years now. I want to give you a quick update on the state of family homelessness in our community and give you just a glimpse of what we're doing to respond. And keep in mind, the numbers shown here on these slides are before the pandemic. So the impacts of pandemic this year obviously are making things even worse. Some of the key trends and metrics that we track were already concerning prior to the pandemic. An 86% increase in student homelessness since 2010, and an even faster increase rate in the last 3 years. The number of families with children living in motels has quadrupled in the last 5 years. And just last year, we estimated that 6,000 children are experiencing homelessness in our community. The loss of affordable housing has been a major cause of these trends. It's likely you've heard a lot about this in the news. Here's just a couple of stats for you. Of the 500,000 rental units in our community, only 2% are affordable without subsidy to residents living below the area median income, which of course is the community we serve. And for the last couple of years, Wake County has lost 1,000 affordable units annually. You can see how that adds up. Our organization's response to these community challenges has substantially evolved over the last 3 years. From an organization focused on quickly rehousing, supporting and sustaining homeless families in permanent housing, into a hybrid approach with multiple housing and service models, developing and owning housing stock, and also advocating with allied organizations to change policy and practice. Moving forward, we will measure Families Together's impact in ways that recognize our varied housing and housing support models and our efforts to affect change in the local policy. Our vision, our mission, and our values, however, remain unchanged. Earlier this year, our staff and board began working together to update our strategic goals and objectives. These goals are to increase our role in advocacy for families experiencing homelessness by building strategic partnerships, influencing local policymaking, and educating supporters and others in the community. To grow the supply of affordable housing by building relationships, expanding our role in acquisition and development, and testing new and innovative housing models. We need to strengthen our housing and family support programs to ensure they are relevant. We want to evaluate regularly and measure our successes and incorporate the collective knowledge of our entire team. And finally, we need to optimize our organizational resources and infrastructure by focusing on staffing, funding, racial equity, technology, board training, our volunteer base, and also communications with our key stakeholders like all of you. So that's just a quick rundown. I'd like to turn it over to our Executive Director, Lisa Rowe, now to give you kind of the state of the world today. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. What we do, how we do it, and how we measure our impact has changed a great deal over the past year. Due to the affordable housing crisis, housing families quickly has become increasingly challenging. In the city of Raleigh alone, there is a gap of 43,000 units for very low income and extremely low income households, as those earning less than half of the area median income in Raleigh. Our response to the community challenges and trends that Tim outlined is to take a multi-pronged approach. We have moved from having 2 basic programs, rapid rehousing and emergency shelter, to employing multiple strategies for increasing the housing stock available for homeless families. Yeah, there we go. This graphic shows the 4 initiatives we rolled out last year. In our Bridge Housing Program, we work with families referred by the school system who have been living in motels. They can move into one of our short-term units, save money, and use the savings to move into permanent housing. We now have 3, soon to be 5 units that we purchased for affordable rental. The beauty of these is that we can make rents truly affordable, and we can eliminate some of the barriers our families typically face, such as requirements for having a rental history with no evictions, and unrealistic income expectations or requirements. With our master lease program, we now hold a lease on 10 units that are for families who need a little bit more support. They might need a little bit more time to work on savings and credit repair, budgeting, maybe working on an application for home ownership through Habitat. They will live in one of these units for about a year, pay no more than 30% of their income, and receive intensive services and support. Finally, we are developing partnerships with individuals, businesses, and nonprofit organizations that own housing and that are interested in making it available for the families that we serve. The ultimate goal for all of these initiatives is long-term stability, whether that is homeownership, rental housing that's affordable, or rental housing that's made affordable through a subsidy, something critical for the long-term success of some high barrier families. Given all this, it's probably no surprise that how we measure our impact has shifted. In the past, we focused primarily on the number of families housed, how quickly we housed them, how long they stayed housed, certainly all very important measures. But due to the implementation of new services and programs, and because we know the impact our team has on the lives of the families that we serve, the impact is significant in a number of important ways, and we want to capture that. So moving forward, we will measure impact in ways that do truly take into account our varied housing and housing support models. For example, we will look at goals and metrics that indicate improved quality of life and potential for long-term success. Indicators of client success will include measuring the benefits and services that people are connected to and receive, things like disability benefits, food assistance, housing subsidies, healthcare, the increase in financial literacy, even improved management of mental health issues and coping skills. In terms of the impact of COVID-19 on our program families and on our organization, I do feel that our years of work with at-risk families and our focus on affordable housing has positioned us well for this unprecedented crisis. Early on, we did an assessment of all families and the impact of the pandemic. Certainly, all of the families that we work with were impacted, some more significantly than others. The closing of schools and daycares, that affected all families. The lack of technology needed for attending school at home affected a good number. About half of the families in our program either lost their jobs or had their hours significantly cut. Examples of our emergency response include increased rental assistance, assistance with a challenging unemployment benefit application process. We hosted a COVID-19 testing day that was very well attended. And we held special donation drives and distributed things like Google Chromebooks and hotspots so kids could keep up in school. Food, which was especially important because kids were no longer receiving meals in school. And masks and other specialty cleaning and hygiene supplies. We also quickly ramped up to play a significant role in addressing crisis needs. So typically we would enroll about 100 families a year, and at any given time would have about 75 families enrolled. Currently, we have 110 families enrolled, 70 of those not yet housed, 40 of them in the stabilization phase. Through partnerships with our local government partners, we brought on new staff and implemented new programs. Since the pandemic, we've hired 3 new program team members as well as a full-time finance director. 2 of our new programs involve expanded emergency support for families in motels. I'm going to turn it over to Jasmine Dulin now to talk about these new initiatives that she's been very heavily involved in.
Lisa. So Families Together has always in some way been working with families in hotels to assist them with finding housing for quite a while because we saw that need. As you know, these families are still indeed homeless, and some people may not realize that fact. And of course, with COVID-19, we began to see an even greater need for these families living in hotels. So currently, Families Together is participating in 2 programs within the community, the Wake Prevent Hotel Assistance Family Program and the Hotels to Housing Program. The Wake Prevent Hotel Family Assistance Program is an extension of the Wake Prevent program, looking to provide prevention services to families who have children enrolled in Wake County public schools who were also impacted by COVID-19, so whether they lost their job completely or their hours were reduced. And they were already living in hotels. Families Together has been able, with this program, we've enrolled 22 families, and we have been providing case management, which includes getting just the basic needs met as far as applying for food stamps and other types of things as Medicaid, and applying for jobs, and assisting in the housing process. Our program team has done an amazing job throughout this process, and with the Wake County Hotel Family Assistance Program, we have been able to move 5 of these families from the hotels into one of our 2 affordable housing programs. 4 families moved into their own homes, while the remaining have been able to self-resolve, or they ended up qualifying for the other program we are involved in, the Hotels to Housing program. This program caters to families with chronic health conditions that cannot stay in the congregate shelters due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have also been working diligently with these 40 families as well, providing the same case management and assisting with the housing process. And as of today, we have had 2 families from that program move into their own permanent housing. We will continue working towards our ultimate goal, which is assisting families to find stable housing throughout this pandemic. And our case managers are diligently working hard to make sure we're providing everything that we can, because we know there's some challenges, especially with the children trying to do remote learning and being in a hotel. So we're always in constant contact with school social workers, whatever we can do throughout the community to help make that possible. And we're going to continue doing that. And so now I will turn it over to Gwen Jackson, who is a former Families Together client and a current board member, to share her unique perspective.
Thanks, Jasmine. I am super excited to be here with you all today to share my story with you. When I came to Families Together, my life looked a lot different than how it looks now. I was just broken and just emotionally and financially drained. As some of the team has talked about, my family was one that unfortunately lived in a hotel for a long time after becoming homelessness. You know, for some of us, it's that terrible day when you've got to choose between paying your rent or paying for that car that's broken down that carries you to work each day. So that happened in my life, and I found myself, my family, in a hotel. And when the money ran out, I'd never imagined, but I found myself with my family sleeping in our car, which was just absolutely devastating. So we did that for several weeks, and just being terrified that I would lose my children due to not being able to provide stable housing. Well, it so happened that I did receive a referral to Families Together, which absolutely changed my life. So I came into the program and just was not confident that I would be able to receive stable housing. But once I began to meet with and talk to the staff, I was completely amazed at how non-judgmental the staff was. All of the resources that they pulled out in order to help us find stable housing was just amazing to me. Before I knew it, within a short period of time, my family was moving into an apartment. Not only did we now have stable housing, I was paired with a mentor advocate who literally walked with me from point A to point Z for a year over the course of this, of my involvement in the program. With my mentor advocate, she taught me so many things as it relates to financial stability, how to maintain housing, how to save money, how to manage my personal finances to the point where I could continue to be stable in housing. So this is not just a program that puts people in houses. They're getting to the root of the problem and showing us how to maintain stable housing. Again, I was working with the mentor advocate, and she really helped me to gain confidence when it came to going after jobs that would provide more income for me. And so as I continued to work with her, I gained that confidence, and I began to applying to jobs that would provide more income for my family. And I landed a job with a higher pay, almost $15,000 more than what I was currently making at the time. And not only that, once I got into that role, I received a promotion, and now I am a human resources specialist. So this has completely changed my life. I was approached about becoming a board member, and it was not a second thought for me. Why would I not give back to an organization that has given so much to me and my family? So I've been a board member since January 2019, going into my second year. And also there was a program that they put together called Voices Together, which gives graduates of the program an opportunity to speak to many different people on many different platforms. And I gladly take on those engagements to share my story. I want the public to know what homelessness looks like. I'm not a lazy person. Often I've kept more than one job, you know, but sometimes there is that hard time that comes when you have to choose between taking care of one thing versus another. So I have dedicated my spare time and being a part of Families Together, like I said, which has changed my life, even the trajectory in the life of my children, who are leaders in their school, where they participate in different things every day. We could not do that without having stable housing as part of our lives right now. Like I said, my life was very different before Families Together, and I am so grateful for what they have provided to me and my family. So I definitely want and will continue to give back to this organization that has given so much to me and my family. I hope that you've enjoyed hearing my story. It's from my heart, and again, super grateful for Families Together, who is not just putting us in homes, but preparing us for the future. I'd like to now turn it over to Rebecca Necessary, a fellow board member, who will talk to us about our affordable housing project. Thank you.
Thanks, Gwen. So I'm super excited today to talk to everyone about a step in a new direction for Families Together. I think we're going to have a slide here in just a second that shows some pictures of some photos of our latest project, which is a renovation of a duplex that we purchased in March. Let's see, there we go, there it is. So we purchased this house in March. It is one piece of our affordable housing strategy that we have come up with on the board and with the rest of the organization to expand our portfolio. And this opportunity became available. It is actually it's on the same street as the Families Together offices and some other units that we already own. And the owners came to us. They actually approached us and asked if we were interested in buying it. And so the reasons for purchasing this were many. It was a great price, again, thanks to the seller's support of our organization. It's in the neighborhood. One important piece is that it is near the future bus rapid transit line, which is going to come down the New Bern Avenue corridor. And so having the access for our families to be able to be close by to a transit opportunity was really important to us. The house also sits on 1.5 acres. And so we were able to purchase this as a duplex, but also for the property, so that as we begin to expand our portfolio and move into other types of development potentially down the road, we will have this land. So it felt like an opportunity that we could not pass up. The immediate goal is to renovate and create 2 3-bedroom units. So the updates that we're doing, some of which we've already started, we're updating all of the systems in the house. So that's the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing. All of those things are being brought up to current code. We're doing fresh paint, new carpet, new flooring. One of the units does not have a kitchen right now, so we're putting in a new kitchen to that unit. Both units are going to have their own laundry rooms, so that they have washers and dryers within their houses, within the units, each their own. We're updating the bathrooms, we're updating lighting. The exterior is going to get a nice update, a new roof. So we have a lot of exciting things happening to make sure that these units are going to be clean, safe, happy homes for our families. Once the renovation is completed, these will be used to provide affordable permanent rentals for families in our program who have children and who have been living in motels. So we're going to initially start this out with 12-month leases. There'll be the opportunity to extend those leases as needed. And to ensure affordability, the families will pay no more than 30% of their income for rent. So this is an important piece of this for us. Because we are the property owners, we can ensure that they will continue to be affordable and preserve these units for families down the road for as long as we need them. So we're really excited about having the opportunity to take on this project, purchase the house and the property, because it really continues to help further our mission for increasing the stock and retaining the stock of affordable housing in Raleigh. So the next steps, we have the list. We've met with contractors. We have a contractor we're working with that we're really excited about. And the next big piece is to raise $130,000. And so hopefully a lot of you are here today to hear about how you can help us do this. We are already nearly halfway to our goal, which is amazing. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about an exciting opportunity next week, 1 week from today on October 13th, that we're calling Raise the Roof. And we have 6 incredibly generous and lifelong friends of Families Together who have pledged a challenge match already of $60,000. And so what they have done is they've created an amazing opportunity for those of you who are concerned about the loss of affordable housing in our area, in our community, and the increase of family homelessness. They've given you an opportunity to make a greater impact. So next Tuesday on October 13th, we are having a triple match day. And so what that means, sorry, we can go back to the last slide if you want, that if you give $25, that becomes $75. If you give $50, that triples to $150. And so we're working hard. We've got some great easy targets that you can see. If you give $500, it triples to $1,500, and that's going to carpet an entire unit, put new flooring in an entire unit, which is an amazing, huge step in the right direction for us. If you can give $200, that triples to $600, and that buys a shower and tub combo for one of the units. So all of these things add up, and all of these different pieces really come together again to ensure that we are offering our families clean, safe, happy homes that are affordable, that continue to make their lives better. I think Gwen spoke to this, how important it is to have a safe place to call home, especially for kids right now. So much is happening at home, and it truly is such an important time to have that. So I will pass it now back to Catherine for some Q&A, and we can talk more about saving the date for next week and our big triple match.
Great. Thank you so much, Rebecca, and thank you to all of you. Actually, can you guys hear me? I'm still seeing Rebecca. Okay. So I'm like, yeah, a ventriloquist, exactly. A few questions have been put into the chat. So with that, let's first of all, Gwen, I don't know if you saw that, but somebody commented that you're amazing and they congratulated you on your accomplishments. So we all share with that. And every time I hear your story, my eyes get damp. I'm gonna say off to the side here, hey Sadie, we're stuck on Rebecca here. I think. Anyway, so with that, we'll go on and ask some questions, but I just don't know if my fellow panelists will join on this. So one question that was submitted was regarding racial inequality and systemic racism. And I'm not sure which of you, it sort of feels like either a kind of a Tim, Lisa kind of probably ones that you guys might want to say a word or two, especially because I'm aware of the fact that we have, the staff issued a statement about how we feel about the environment and systemic racism, as well as the board has posted a statement as well. So I don't know if either of you want to say a word or two.
Yeah, I will. I'll say a couple of things, and Tim can, and others might as well. But yes, this is racial inequity is something that we've been talking about a lot over the past months, and talking within our staff, within our board. We've been going through some racial diversity sessions with a facilitator. The staff is divided into two groups, a white caucus and a black caucus, and have been going through several months worth of meetings and education and conversations, and even an assessment inventory that we will be reviewing as a full staff next week. We also have a new book club, and so we're reading books and getting together to talk about things that we're learning. It's something that is, it's the marathon. This is not something that, well, we'll talk about it this year and next year move on to something else. This is something that's changed. Our world is changing, and it's needed to change for a long time. And we are going to be looking at specific ways that we can incorporate diversity and equity in all aspects of our organization. I'm not sure, what that's going to look like and the process for doing that, but we've made a commitment to doing that in concert with our team, with our staff team and our board team. So, yeah, anything, if anybody else wants to chime in?
Yeah, so I'll just add a couple of comments. So clearly this racial equity is a learning process. Many people just don't really understand all the components that are out there, but we're committed to helping to learn and understand what's needed. Historically, systemic racism, one of the biggest places that it impacts is people and how they live and where they get their homes and whether they can afford homes, and so it plays right into the community that we serve. So this is very important to us to continue this journey, as Lisa described it, to make sure that we're serving not only our clients but also our staff and our board and everybody understanding how important this topic is.
Outstanding. Well, I'll pitch it to someone else, because the next question on there is to Lisa and Tim, but you guys just got a chance to chat, so I'll let you take a breath. Jasmine, we've got a question here about, while we know that every family's circumstance is unique, would you say there is a message, need, or idea that families in motels would appreciate having communicated to people who want to help?
Sure. And I think it actually kind of goes back to something Gwen said in her presentation, just about how homelessness looks, because sometimes people don't think that, like families that have been living in a hotel are homeless, but they are. And, it could be because of a job loss or, just something so simple as that. So it's not your typical homelessness scenario, so just being open and understanding how certain families may have gotten to the positions that they are, and just listening and being that listening ear and figuring out how you can help this family get from point A to point Z, also as Gwen stated, because we see that a lot, and I've seen that a lot with certain families that I work with. They just say, sometimes I just needed somebody to listen. And to understand how I got here, and it wasn't just by happenstance. It was a true cycle. And once they feel like somebody listens, to their story, they're more willing to open up and really accept all of the assistance that is out there.
Good, thank you. It's always great to get insights from somebody really actually working on this every day, so appreciate it. I'm going to go down the list because I realized, Lisa, that one of the things we didn't get a chance in a relatively short time like this to talk about is what the work we're doing in the advocacy space. And one of the questions is whether we've decided to become involved in One Wake. And I know we had some discussion, and I think we're partnering with some other nonprofits, but would you feel comfortable, Lisa, perhaps talking a little bit about what we're doing in the advocacy space and One Wake, as that might apply to One Wake?
Sure. I am definitely familiar with One Wake, and we've had conversations with the Devin, who's heading it up. I can't remember his title. I've been to some of the meetings. I think it's an amazing organization, and they're really ramping up. And I think it's going to be a huge boost for our community. We have a number of supporters that are involved through their faith communities. We haven't yet decided if we're going to join as an organization. There's a financial aspect that's a little steep for us alone, but we are partnering. We have recently put together a group called Wake Affordable Housing Coalition. It's a group of affordable housing organizations in our area, and we meet on a regular basis so that we can be in alignment when there are big things like this to talk about. And we have talked about perhaps joining as a collective group. We haven't decided about that yet, but it's definitely on our radar, and I think we'll be discussing it in our next meeting. One of the other things that this group has been very involved with, and Families Together has, is the Raleigh Housing Bond. So I wanted to mention that briefly. This is something that, between our staff and our advocacy committee and myself as part of the advisory committee for the bond, it's something we've been talking about for some months, since really right before the pandemic hit. We've really started doing some work on it. Just a little bit of information: the $80 million bond will provide funds for site acquisition for development around transit hubs across the city focused on affordable rental units, funds to assist homeowners in making repairs and renovations, down payment assistance for lower income residents, and finally, very importantly, over half of the bond dollars would go towards public-private partnerships with a focus on stable housing for chronically homeless and low-income residents, and funding for low-income housing tax credit property development for affordable units on a larger scale over the next 5 years. So we encourage Raleigh residents to vote yes. We do have, just last thing I'll say, we do have a very strong advocacy committee that is doing all kinds of things, big and small. We're contacting our elected officials on a regular basis, meeting with them, letter writing campaigns, emailing, and making sure that our voice is heard, that our focus is on the very low income households in our community. And that's what we just keep putting out there. And I think the work of our advocacy committee is only going to become more important.
Great. I don't know if you're the one, as long as we're you can't get off screen, sorry. If you're the best one, but this is what this is about, to get a chance to chat with Lisa and with all of us. But one of the questions here is, what's the process for referring a family to the program? Do they have to go through another agency, program, housing hub, or can they self-refer? And I think you talked a little bit about the directions. You had the one slide, but we didn't talk so much about the referral process.
Yes, and that is different than in years past. The process now is going through the community's coordinated access system. So no longer do families call us and ask for services. There's a process that all organizations, at least all of those that receive HUD funding, which is most of the homeless providers in our community, we all work together. There are access sites that people can either go to or call. They're screened, and then they're referred to the Partnership to End and Prevent Homelessness that oversees this. And when someone is eligible for in need of shelter, they're referred to shelter providers. When they're eligible for rapid rehousing, there's a list, and they're prioritized based on different things, chronicity and just a number of different priority items. And then when we have openings, we let them know how many, and they refer them to us. And Jasmine has probably been a lot more involved in this part of the process with the case conferencings and all that. So if you want to chime in and add anything, Jasmine, go right ahead.
Sure. Yeah, you basically summed it up. Yes. Unfortunately, everybody has to go through that coordinated entry system process, whether it's, like for the rapid rehousing, even with the hotel programs that we're participating in, they're still kind of filtered through what they call access sites, positioned all throughout the county. So they call the number, they explain what their situation is, whether they're behind on their rent, they're living in their car, whatever the situation may be, and then they are routed to the specific, whether it may be another access site or program, and then that specific provider, once they get the referral, reaches out, whether it's for shelter, rapid rehousing, or the hotel programs, and then they make contact and begin that whole process from there. But we always, if we do get a phone call, we always still try to assist with pointing them in the right direction, because sometimes we do still get calls to the agency directly.
Great. Hey, as long as we've got you, Jasmine, there's a question really about the federal government, or at least in the past, I don't think counted people in hotels as being homeless. And I don't know if that's changed with COVID, or, but how does that affect their recovery? Does it affect how we can help them?
I mean, I would say not really. It's with programs that have come up, unfortunately, that we are involved in, where we're kind of getting the word out, about how we can assist them, because there are certain government definitions of homelessness, and, through certain programs, that's what we have to go by. But we at Families Together always try to do whatever we can. So that's what I mentioned earlier about how we had always been working with families in hotels, because we knew that they were not on the radar. And so I think that's definitely been a big influence that I have definitely been proud to be a part of, with getting that word out that, like with these families, they need the help too. They're human too, just like everybody else. So I think, if we keep getting the word out and keep doing these initiatives, people will come to see that everybody can benefit from these services.
And I'll just chime in a little bit, because some of the people that are on this call have been known about us for a long time. And one thing I didn't mention is this is actually a shift. We started the Bridge Housing Program, the Master Lease Program, specifically because there was a pre-COVID, there was an increase, a very big increase in the number of families with children who are living in motels. But they were not able to access rapid rehousing programs because they weren't considered homeless by HUD standards. So they could spend a lot of money and time in motels and not be able to get out. So we created these new programs. Referrals for those programs continue to come through the school system. So that is one sort of deviation from the rest of our referrals. They continue to come from the school system for families that are in motels. The interesting thing is, what's happened with COVID, and Jasmine alluded to this, is that now, because the shelters were not able to house many people, and it was very important that people during a pandemic have a roof over their heads, now motels are, if they're paid for by another organization, they're considered shelter. So now they can be served by rapid rehousing programs. So a lot of things are changing as a result. I don't know what the long-term change will be, but for the time being, families in shelters, in motels paid for by organizations are, meet that definition. I hope that it wasn't too much in the weeds.
No, I think that's really very helpful. Okay, one last question, because we started a minute late, so we'll go a minute late too. One last question is, what's the distinction between a family that's enrolled in Families Together and one that is in the stabilization process? Probably back to you, Lisa.
Okay. So I think it's probably, that was part of my what I talked about. So by enrolled, we mean they've been, they've had an assessment, an intake interview. We've enrolled them, they've qualified, and we're going to work with them until we get them housed. Once they're housed, we're going to provide ongoing services and support to ensure that they stay housed. So enrolled doesn't always mean they're going to get housed, but most of the families we enroll do get housed, about 80%. And sometimes that takes several months. Sometimes it takes longer than that. Sometimes it's quicker. But so we have what we call the pre-housing phase. So we'll be working with families, with mentor advocates intensively during that time. Once they are housed, we then provide that services. In fact, Jasmine, part of what she does is she's a stabilization mentor advocate. So she does the home visits and, you know, the education and making sure that they're on track and they're, budgeting and doing, their needs are met and they're have access to resources and that'll help with long-term stability, whether it's a car or education and training, employment. So we feel it's really important to provide that ongoing service for support for about a year after they've been housed, and that has really helped us be successful in keeping people housed. It's a big part of our program.
Great. Well, I think our time's up. This was really intended to kick off the conversation, right? We don't want the conversation to end here. You are welcome to reach out to Families Together with any additional questions. If you think of something later, please, you can see there's that we want you to reach out to Jennifer Paul. So it's Jennifer@familiestogethernc.org. And I'm sure there was a question in the Q&A about getting the slides. So reach out to Jen and she can help you with that as well. I think we've been Facebook Live streamed for this too. You'll be able to go back and check out if there's something you want to hear again. But so thank you to all of you for joining, and thank you to my fellow panelists here who did this today at lunchtime. It's been really nice. And please do keep in mind, you can go back to our reminder about the 13th, save the date for next week when we you can make a real difference in our Raise the Roof campaign of trying to help us redo that property that Rebecca was showing you. And anyway, thank you for all your ongoing support and your partnership. We all very much appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks.